Hello and welcome to this installment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we are looking at the roof headliner kit for the Jaguar MK2 model. This is also applicable to the 240 and 340 models as they are effectively variants of the MK2. However, it is not applicable to the Daimler V8 250 or the 2.5 V8 Daimler, which had a fair few common parts between the MK2 and the Daimler V8. The headliner was not one of them. The MK2 had a rather unique loop and rod style setup, which is what these seams are, going from left to right on the headliner kit, whereas the Daimler V8 250 did not. However, we have seen some cars that have had that setup in there, whether that was done on the factory line or after the fact. So best to check those details beforehand, but generally speaking, the Daimler's had a completely different setup, and please do check out the other videos showing the Daimler headliner kit that we offer. Now, this kit that I'm showing in the video here is essentially for the inner roof lining of the car. It encompasses the main section here, this section here that went below the rear screen, left to right. Then it also includes enough material to retrim your original sun visors. So they are included as standard in the headliner kit. However, for an extra cost, we can supply you the sun visors, either fully trimmed up with the mirrors in on the passenger side, or if you wanted to still do a bit of the work yourself, we can supply the molded plastic units and you can do the retrimming at your end if you wish. So they are sold separately to the headliner, but as standard in the headliner kit, you do get enough material to retrim your original sun visor units. So the headliner kit is this 4-piece kit, effectively: sun visors, or materials for sun visors rather, the main section there, and then this section at the back here. As standard from the factory, the headliner's left in 3 different colours: grey, beige and green. Green was only really commonly seen on suede green interiors, whereas beige and grey were the dominant ones. They were fitted to a lot of cars. The colours are fairly flexible, i.e. you can put most colours with most interior trim colours. However, there was a general rule of thumb that they tended to stick to, so if you're unsure, do let me know and I can guide you through that process and potentially send you photos. They're always made out of Woolcloth, which is a very high quality material, West of England Woolcloth, which is what we supply as well. And I do encourage you to get samples from us to see the quality of the materials there. Now, it's worth noting as well that the headliners, they had 3 different variants of headliners on the MK2. This video here is showing the most commonly seen, which is what we refer to as the 6-loop headliner. And it's all related to the seams on the underside of the headliner, i.e. this side. We're obviously looking at the face, the bit that you would see if you looked up when it's in the car. So the underside here has these loops sewn into them, which is for the rods that went from left to right on them. So when we say 6-loop, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the most commonly seen spec of headline on the MK2. However, the very early cars had 5 loops, so one of the seams was not present. And then some cars were fitted with the sunroof, the Webasto Sunroof spec, and again that means that a couple of the seams are missing on those. We have the patterns for all the variants of them, so don't worry about that. And I hope to be doing videos as and when we get orders for those other 2 rarer specs. I'll be doing some videos to detail that, so do check those out for sure. But yeah, this is the 6-loop spec setup here. So just to glance at it in the book, although you're not going to get a particularly great shot of it, I'm afraid, you basically had the headliner unit. It went to front windscreen all the way back to the rear windscreen, sort of round the sides, and it bent down round here. You had the light areas here. Obviously, we don't do any cutaways for the lights. That's always best done in situ. And then you had this strip of material here, which went underneath the rear screen from left to right. So effectively the other side of this area here. So you get that material pre-cut as well. To actually look at the sort of main headliner area, let me take this book with us, as I'll need it in a while for the sun visors. So the main kit is obviously pre-sewn. So if I just bend some of it over here, you have these calico scrim loops that you put your rod through from side to side, and that is used to attach it actually into the car effectively. So you had them going across like that. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind with the fitment process and also our kit and how suitable it is for that element of things. People often ask the question, do I need the windscreens out? You don't, but it makes the life so much easier. So if you are doing a ground up restoration, headliner should be one of the first things you think about, because if those windscreens are out, both the front and rear screens are out, that is the time to be fitting a headliner, because it gives you so much more arm and elbow room to pull the material. Now, on that note, we make our kit significantly bigger than it needs to be, mainly around this sort of circumference left and right. And we've done that intentionally. My father used to work very closely with Vicarage back in the 90s when they were under very different management back then. And they used to do very, very high-end Mark II restorations. And my father used to supply all the kits for them. And it was through that relationship that we started tweaking and improving quite a few of our Mark II patterns on their advice, and one of them was to make everything wider than it needs to be, so it literally gives you something to grab and pull on during the fitment process, and it means that you can really get the headliner nice and tight and taut, which is what you need from left to right to make sure that you don't get any sort of material wrinkles. You can see if you just lay it down like that, you get these little sort of wrinkles, but as soon as you put any tension on them, they disappear and it becomes a very nicely, beautifully trimmed headliner on that element of things. So bear that in mind. It's one of the little things that we've learned over the years of giving you excess material to play with, so that you get the best fit, and it allows you to fit the things actually the easiest way. So anyway, so all the loops are sewn onto the back of them, and then this is the rear section here, which is semi-shaped, but again oversized. It gives you enough room to grab on, tack down, glue down, etc. Then you get that strip at the back there, and then you get these rectangles here, which are ample size for 2 sun visor units. Now, let's talk about sun visors. Now, it is worth noting at this stage, definitely check out some of the other videos on my YouTube channel, some of which will be referenced at the end of this one and linked, because I have done a few videos showcasing the Jaguar MK2 sun visors, and it's definitely worth checking those out because there are a few things that you should be aware of with them. But basically, the sun visors, they had 2 different versions. Again, these are by far and away the most commonly seen version, with a bit of a caveat statement to that in a second. But let's check out the earlier versions. So the earlier versions, they were sort of rectangular and they were recessed. They actually went up into the recess in the roof. Very, very rare. As far as I'm aware, no one supplies those units these days. So all we can supply for that element of things would be the actual materials. Of course, if you happen to be someone that has got some of these here and you do want some help with it, do let us know, because if you can get us the original units, we can retrim them for you, but better still, we could probably replicate them for you and make you brand new units as well. So do bear that in mind. But that was the very rarely seen version, whereas this is the much more commonly seen version, which is these curvaceous ones here. Now, the majority of them had this chrome strip beading around the outside edge, and it's worth noting that these aftermarket units do not make an allowance for that, i.e. that strip that went around the edge of it will not fit onto these plastic units, so do bear that in mind. Some of the later Mark IIs, and in fact the sort of S-types and Daimlers, left the factory without that strip on them, so that's kind of completely original for those. But a lot of the Mark IIs did have this strip around it, and these do not really allow for that. They're too thick. However, we are working at the moment with a customer who sent us some of his original ones on offering a potential workaround for that. So watch this space. We might be able to do that in the future. But as of this current point in time, these units here do not allow for that. And just to be sure as well, these are mass produced. They are the industry standard ones, so as far as I'm aware, you're not going to find anyone that offers that section around the beading around the outside that actually fits these units here. So yeah, sun visors, they are molded plastic. The aftermarket ones, they have the tube in there, which has obviously the room for the rod. Now at this point, it is definitely worth mentioning to check out one of my other videos, because a very common problem that people get is the fitment of the rod, and they end up breaking these plastic units because they get a bit overzealous, shall we say, and trying to get the rod in there. You've got to imagine that these tubes here are standardized width using modern day, or diameter rather, using modern day machinery. Whereas the rods were made 50, 60 years ago. They've oxidized, and sometimes they get a bit fatter and whatnot. So sometimes you will struggle to get the rod into here, but there are workarounds, and that's why I encourage you to watch the other video that I've done showcasing that. So do bear that in mind. We supply hundreds of these per year. We know they work, but we're not saying it's as easy as plug and play. You're not just going to get, well, very rarely will you get the rod to just slide in there nice and easily. So do watch that other video there. But yeah, so the molded plastic units, we can sell them as a pair, and then the mirror is sold separately. You obviously get this oval mirror here. So obviously the molded plastics have a recess in them. Now, the mirrors were only commonly fitted on the passenger side. So for example, this set here is a left-hand drive car. We can offer left-hand drive and right-hand drive versions, so don't worry about that. Obviously, the right-hand drive versions, it would just be a mirror image of this, excuse the pun, with the mirror on the opposite side here. So we can supply both left-hand drive and right-hand drive. These are effectively left-hand drive because they have the mirror on the right side, which is the passenger side. So yeah, we can supply the plastic units sold as a pair, mirror sold separately, in that format there, and you can do the trimming at your end if you wish. Or we can supply them fully trimmed up, which is these versions here, where we literally use this material here and we trim them up for you with the seam inside out around the perimeter edge there, and then the mirror on the passenger side there. Obviously, you get a little bit of a hole there, and you'll just want to sort of poke the rod through to get it to fit correctly in there. But yeah, like I say, do check out the other video that I've done detailing that element of the fitment process there. But yeah, that's effectively the kit as it stands. So a bit of an overview. Woolcloth available in grey, beige or green. You had variants in the headliner kit itself. So you had 5 loop, which was quite rare, 6 loop, which was extremely common, and Webasto Sunroof, which was quite rare. We can supply all variants of them. The headliner kit itself includes the main section here, the back section here that went underneath the rear screen, and then the materials for retrimming your sun visors. So that is the headliner kit as it is sold. That headliner kit is included as standard in our trim kit, so bear that in mind. For optional extras, we can supply the sun visor units, which we can either supply untrimmed or fully trimmed. They differ between left-hand drive and right-hand drive, but we can supply both versions. And they are optional extras. So they're sold separately to the headliner kit, and they are sold separately to the trim kit as well. At this point in time, no one can offer the sun visors that allow for the beading around the outside, which is original for some cars, but we are currently looking into changing that. So watch this space on that one there. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe and share. Of course, do check out the other videos on my YouTube channel, as well as the ones linked at the end of this one for more information. If you have an inquiry about your Jaguar MK2 or 240 and 340 restoration, then please do contact us via our website's contact page or email. I look forward to hearing from you, and be sure to tune in next time. Thanks very much.